back and comes back with the same leaking faucet, leaking pipe, and you only mop on the floor, but you refuse to fix the pipe.
And that's the point.
Fix the pipe.
Morning, Trinidad and Tobago. We're live on 104.7. It is Thursday, 15th of March, 2018. Kevin is at a break. As soon as he comes back, we're going to be going live on the radio. If we're doing calls today, Kevin?
If you want.
If we're taking calls today, if you want to hear the calls, you're going to have to listen at that during that segment on an actual radio, because if we're using headphones, will we be using headphones?
I'm using it. I have mine.
Well, you will see what he can do to accommodate. Kevin is a nice guy. No, you could just switch and switch.
No, I would. Let's see. Let me see what I can get. Alright, so you can hear what's going on.
Right.
I have shrunk. I haven't been in the gym since December. I have shrunk.
Serious? I don't know.
Look at this.
I don't know what I would do.
Alright, the body really don't need the muscle, so my body tell me that I shrink down.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, plugging in the headphones, peeps. You're getting ready to go in.
Alright, 20 seconds.
20 seconds and we are
ready.
ready.
Song first,
What song are you going with? Alright.
Not the one I really wanted, but
You do your thing.
I found a real good one for the lyrics for British. But I can't get out because things kind of miserable with the internet right now.
You do your thing, bro. You do your thing. Let me get myself inside and comfortable.
Alrighty, people, so you know it's about that time. It's Thursday, so you know we have to have the guy here. He come in to talk and give a whole lot of information. Philip Alexander, good morning to you.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning to 104.7 and all of its loyal listeners. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to everyone. Follow us on social media live. We're live on Philip Edward Alexander's profile. So good morning, everyone.
Alright. No, alright, never heard it. It's a concern. You want to be the next government. Yesterday, I happened to see the Port of Spain Corporation BMW X5 vehicle, PDH 111. Now, why they earth with they have no money. If you spending enough money to buy a BMW X5 for the courier to drive around, I don't understand. Somebody, PDH, this is 2005, by the way, May 2015 is when PDH started. I just saw, who was the mayor back at that point in time who thought it was necessary for them to have an X5 BMW for the courier to drive around?
More importantly, the failure of local government and the entire local government system is something that we've ignored for too long. And the people of Trinidad and Tobago need to understand, when the Progressive Empowerment Party comes to you and says that the way the police service is set up is wrong, and it doesn't line up with how the regional health authorities are set up, and it doesn't line up with local government, and those three don't line up with the 41 constituencies as drawn on a map, you realize why this country doesn't work. There's no transition of power, there's no obvious communication, and no hierarchy of authority in the country. So everybody gets to do what they want.
No chain of command.
No chain of command, you could use that. The Progressive Empowerment Party proposes to cancel and abolish and undo all of that and replace it with something called the Constituency Board of Supervisors. And if you think it through and you realize that if you are living in a constituency, that constituency would have a supervisor for public works, public utilities, education, health, and security. The five most critical things to the average person operating their lives. If you have a constituency supervisor of education, that's who you go to if you're having a problem with your child in your child's school.
So you're moving beyond the local government representative.
It's bringing power back to the people. is moving it from the cabinet and it's abolishing the RHAs, the local government system. All of this Port of Spain City Corporation, Diego Martin Regional Corporation, all of that is nonsense. It doesn't work. It doesn't deliver. What it allows for is more money to be spent and wasted. We have too many duplications of efforts. Under the People's Partnership government, I'll show you an example. Rivers and drains in Trinidad and Tobago came under, there was a Ministry of Water Courses, if you remember. There was a Ministry of Works, a Ministry of Local Government, and then there was the actual local government. 4 organizations responsible for the cleaning of the drains.
Right.
If that is not too much government, I don't know what is. Trinidad and Tobago has 1 million plus people, say 1.4.
There we are.
I was down Oropouche West the other day, and we found in the river a bamboo patch that was towering 15 feet above the road, and the drain, but the drain, and there's a paved river. There's a paved river, so it took a while for that bamboo patch to establish itself. And so that means that bamboo patch from the base, from the ground level in the river, must have been about 25 feet tall. Wow. And I was wondering, it's a proper patch, it's not one stalk of bamboo. And I was wondering, how much neglect does it take for that much bamboo to establish itself in a no, bamboo grows fast, but I want to know how much neglect it took for a bamboo patch to establish itself in a concrete paved drain and grow that tall.
Yes, that's the point. I mean, a bamboo that's 20 feet high, that didn't grow overnight.
This
took time.
This guy used to be on this station, Umbala Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Goodwood Gardens. And Umbala, when I was running as the member, from the member of parliament for Diego Martin West in 2015 as an independent candidate, Umbala said, if you fix the drain, the river, the Diego Martin River behind my house, and that river starts up in Bagatelle, if you fix that river, I'll vote for you. And it was ridiculous that he would have to negotiate like that, because that river connects every community in Diego Martin. It passes through from the poorest to the richest, and ironically ends in Westmoreland before it hits the sea. And that it could have been in that type of condition under both the People's Partnership and the government. And I asked this morning, and I asked Trinidadians and Tobagonians, and this is not me trying to get a job. Forget me. Don't vote for anybody else, but ask this question. Ask this question.
Ask yourself the question.
Ask anybody. Have this as the national conversation. Forget the old noise. Under Manning, Pandey, Kamla, and Rowley, just those 4. Forget everybody else. Forget the 56 years. Forget everything. Under Manning, Kamla, Pandey, Rowley, we've spent $1 trillion. We've spent $1 trillion. I want you to drive around across the road from this radio station that I'm in. There's a school, Woodbrook Government School. Now that school has been here before Trinidad was independent. And they shut it down to rebuild it. And it's being rebuilt now almost 8 years. It stopped. Not as long as 8 years? How long?
4 years.
4 years? 4 years. But it stopped now. 2 sets of contractors have been paid, I've been told. And the weeds the weeds are now from ground level. They are weeds that have grown up the poles and the abandoned fence and is now on the TNTech wires and the phone cables. Ivy hanging beautifully, doing what nature does. Nature is reclaiming the school. And that's an example. Because we've spent $1 trillion, and you could drive around Trinidad and Tobago, and for the time of Manning, Pandey, Kamla, Rowley, we've spent roughly, you could say, at $5 billion a year on education, approaching $100 billion. And that's just education. But I want you to understand what $100 billion is. Because the Progressive Empowerment Party proposes a holistic redevelopment of the education system that starts with the redevelopment of 200 purpose-built 10-year zone schools throughout the country. Each of those schools would cost $10 million to build.
Interesting. Now, speaking of education, I have a friend right now. She hasn't been paid from the Ministry of Education for a few months. And I understand she's not the only young lady out there who is teaching the special needs children, and they're not paying her. In fact, they haven't renewed her contract, because if they renew the contract, they know they'd have to pay her. So she's at home. And she's not the only one who's going through this.
Kevin,
they have no money.
Kevin, I'm trying to understand. The schools are in total and complete disrepair. Our teaching service is at an all-time low. Morale. Our schools are dens of violence and porn, bullying.
She has said these things too.
Porn videos, gang fight videos. We spend $100 billion. We spend $5,000 million a year. What is it being spent on?
She said yesterday she wants the minister to sit down for a 2
Kevin,
in a classroom.
but it can't just be
high-risk classrooms with no air conditioning. What happens?
But that's the point. We're spending 10 times the money that could solve those problems.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say this, that Trinidadians are not understanding that every Rolls Royce and every Ferrari that passes you on the road, the owner or the driver of that car has benefited in some way from corruption and mismanagement in Trinidad and Tobago.
What you're saying is the prices of things would actually come down if you took out the corruption factor.
At least 50% of our economy is theft.
Wow.
At least 50% of the national economy is theft. It could be more.
Theft including narcotics.
You know what? Stay focused on education for a minute. We've raised the issue now in the public space to the point where Trinidadians understand that we need to abolish the SEA. The SEA is child abuse. I'll tell you why the SEA is child abuse. Because parents know, because the school system is a failure, and that there are only 10 good schools in the country, that if you don't get your child at the age of 10 or 11 into one of those schools, their future in a mess. So at the age of 10 or 11, you want this baby, this little child, whose body now start to develop, much less their mind, you want them to make all of their lives decisions based on an examination at the age of 10 or 11. And that's madness. The amount of pressure that is put on children by parents, the amount of pressure that is on the parents, because they know, if my child doesn't get into Providence or SAGS or Naparima or Holy Name or St. Mary's or Fatima or QRC or St. Joseph, if my child will get into one of those schools, I in trouble. Because if my child can't get a proper education and come out of there and get a proper job, I don't mind the child too for the rest of their life. Or that my child could end up in trouble. And this is the reality for parents looking at a 10 and an 11-year-old child in a failed education system that could easily...
It is a reality. Certain schools do set you up for a certain amount of success in life in the future.
Kevin, the reality of the situation is,
just going to the school is enough to open
if we've spent $100 billion on education and have not yet confronted and resolved the issue of making all schools prestige schools, we failed. And every minister of education, Anthony Garcia, Tim Gopi Singh, and all the rest going back, because we spent $100 billion and $100,000 million on education alone. Where is that money?
Yeah.
Because if you take a proper approach to redevelop all schools into 10-year schools, zone the schools, because in Finland they say, and Finland has the highest standard of education in the world, head and shoulders above anybody else. And Finland doesn't separate children. The fastest and the slowest stay in the same class, so that everybody comes out doing better. The Finland model proves that having all the children grow together and stay together, because of the nurturing and the intimacy of friendship and the community of the school, because children spend more of their awake time in school with school peers and teachers and principals, and that is so important to the development of fully functional human beings. In our system, we put pressure on the children from the age of 9 and 10 to pass an exam that rips them away from all of the friends that they have and put them in a new system.
I think it more goes to say that
Kevin, is a whole thing. It's an entire thing. When you build a plan on zoning the schools and you say that in every community the schools have to function at the same high level, I'll tell you how a grade point average works. If you remove the SEA and you make all schools 10-year schools, that means you go into the school standard 1 at the age of 5.
Now, people, if you want to find yourself in a prestige school as you will, I'm sure there are private schools are there, you still want to feel like you're cut above.
The private schools wouldn't be able to compete. And I'll show you why. I'll show you why here.
No, you know, people like to look for
no.
prestige. They want to have something.
You could dress your child up like
a
a Christmas tree. You could put lights on them. It don't make a difference. At the end of the day, the purpose of school is to make sure that your child has properly learned how to integrate into society and is able to critically think.
Other private schools in Kenya.
I just want to say that again. You need to make sure that your child knows how to integrate into society and to critically think. We have an education system that fails at both of those counts, and children come out functionally illiterate at the age of 15 and 16 years old.
They go uni to start critical thinking. But then people as 11, 20 give it the time check to see, oh, what a classic. You wait until they go to tertiary education to do critical thinking.
But what about the 80% who can't go to tertiary education, who end up going straight from school to work for a security company, or to cash in a KFC, or to commit crime and end up in jail? It is our reality.
Yeah.
We cannot make silk purses out of sow's ears. If you give the nation an entire generation of functional illiterates, where are we going with them? The purpose of education from a societal point of view is to have a mass group of people that are capable of taking the society to a higher level.
You would like that. But right now the argument is out there that, you know, right now you go to school to get a job.
You made a joke off air. Somebody else made the same joke. We should be exporting gangsters. That's where we at. We're creating gangsters, and then we're trying to solve the problem of gang violence in the country. We've destroyed the family. We've destroyed the community. We've destroyed education. So you have children growing up literally wild. And
we have the videos as proof. We saw one yesterday, I don't know what school it was, they were fighting all over the street.
See the child that climb up on the car and jump in the fight? I say he see that on WWE. He climb up and he jump on top of the fight. I say, well, yes, look where we reach.
And he was like, yeah.
Kevin,
that was the man of the fight.
I warn Trinidad, we at the point where one of those children, because it's so easy to get a gun, we're at a point where one of those children are going to show up in school with a gun in Trinidad and Tobago. I have asked the Minister of Education since the last shooting. Every time there is a shooting in the United States in a school, I ask the Minister of Education, please put security at the gates. Make sure everybody that walk in a school, from teacher to parent to child, check everybody so that no guns come in the school. Make sure that you do regular sweeps of the school to check for guns and weapons.
And holes in the fence. People, you know the trouble schools out there, and you know the kind of problems some of the trouble schools are facing. They're trouble schools for a reason, you know. Now, I don't believe somebody going to go in one of our schools and shoot it up, because we're not people like that.
We're not people like that. One of those little people who get licked up in a fight, who get beat up in a fight. You know,
as more of a, I will get the gun
in America. In America right now, they already having the conversation about, listen,
that's people who get
bullying leads to this.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Bullying leads to this. Powerlessness leads to this. Martin Luther King said a riot is the voice of the unheard. If you take advantage of people long enough, at some point, they're going to try to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And as crazy as that sounds, it's not a justification, but from a societal point of view, we are failing. Because parents, because of the cost of living in this country, I heard the UNC start to talk about a living wage. Yeah. So fantastic. I'm happy to know that Kamala pays attention to my videos. Because if you're talking about a living wage now, I want to ask you, were Prime Minister for 5 years. Why you didn't know what a living wage was then?
In opposition, that's when you don't think.
You've made billionaires of party contractors, financiers, and backers. But the average person couldn't get a living wage, but you're talking living wage now that you're fighting to get back inside. But you stick a pin in that. I was trying to explain to you earlier how we could make all schools prestige schools. A grade point average. Once you have all schools as 10-year schools, that means the parents and the caregivers are going to be dealing with one group of teachers and principals and vice principals and caretakers of their children for the duration of the child's career. They're going to establish relationships. These children from the age of 5 are going to make friends that they're going to grow up with all through their lives. Those bonds will cement a proper society. But if you establish, when you abolish the SEA nationally, you establish a grade point average. and you have a national average based on the curriculum. So let's say based on our curriculum, our national GPA average that we're aiming for is a number like 4.0, right?
Right.
So that's the target. So the Ministry of Education tells all of the education supervisors, who tells all of their principals, who tell all of their teachers that the target is 4.0. The teachers get to tell the parents, our target is 4.0. And every term, education supervisors from the Ministry of Education come to your school, into your class, and administers an exam and takes it away and marks that exam and gives your child a score that goes to your child's complete total grade point average. Last year, my child was 3.9. This year, it might be 4.0.
So what you're saying is you're trying to revolutionize, change the system on the whole. And with the students becoming changed people, perhaps better people, you know what happens, people. What happens is our society changes for the better.
Absolutely. This is no longer a first past the post and who win and who lose. Because every single child in every single school has every opportunity to get to that national average or better. Now you imagine a situation where this is our system and you look at all of the constituencies on a map and the Minister of Education could say Mayaro is 4.0, Toko Manzanella is 4.0, Tobago West is 4.0, Caroni East is 4.0, Laventille West is 4.0, Diego Martin West is 3.6. Why would Diego Martin West be 3.6? The Minister of Education then could contact the Supervisor of Education for Diego Martin West and say, your entire constituency is 4 points below the national average. Why? The Education Supervisor for Diego Martin West will contact all of his or her principals because it will identify in all of the schools in my constituency, there are 20 schools, 18 did 4.0, 2 did 3.6. So now you have two principals that you call in, that you say the national average and the constituency average is 4.0. You've done 3.6. Why? That principal looks at all of his or her classes and say the classroom average in the school is 4.0 because all children together, their average is the teacher's average, and all the teachers' classes together, those averages is the principal and the school's average. You understand that? The principal will be able to look at all the collective classroom results. You could bring it right down to one, correct. You come down to one teacher and you talk to that teacher. You say the national average, the constituency average, the school average is 4.0. Your class is 3.6. Why? And the teacher will then be able to look at their 25 children and tell the principal, listen, I have 25 children in this class. 20 of them did 4.0 and these 5 we're having problems with. All of a sudden, you've drilled right down from a national view of the performance of all the nation's children. And you found the 5 children that have the biggest problems. And then you have to interview the children, and you have to interview the parents, and you have to interview the teacher. And you have to find out what exactly is the problem, because nobody is incapable of learning.
And then you can fix it.
If it is a social problem, you bring in social development to manage that problem. If it is a problem with the parents, the father beating the mother, beating the child, there's a foster system. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? But you could all of a sudden, you could identify, all of a sudden, this education system that we have now, we get a report, and they've said it's fake news. We take that one boy raped another in Fatima College. And the Minister of Education, all he could do is throw his hands in the air. We get these videos of children beating one another and making porn videos in school. And the Minister of Education and the Prime Minister are casting aspersions against the children rather than taking responsibility for the nation's children and the education system that is supposed to take care of them. We fix this one thing, and in 10 years, Trinidad no crime, you know. Because you've given all these children hope and opportunity. You take those same children in an environment where Wi-Fi is free. Because they're not waiting on Kamla to get them a laptop, you know. They have smartphones in their hands that could do exactly the same thing. I know a young man that developed an app, he from Diego Martin. And that app trending very high on global app sites. He might end up with a couple $100 million when you look sharp. And there's an app to track parties. How to find a party anywhere in the world. Wherever you are and you want a party,
Follow the
it's an
music.
app to track up. Well, you can follow the music. But you understand what I'm trying to tell you? It's
Yeah,
like Uber and Waze for fetting. And a Trini had to come up with that.
I don't think about it. I remember when I was in Switzerland. But we were bored in the hotel. And then we were, and this is the bad part, we were leaving Geneva. Sitting down in the taxi until we realized they had a club right around the corner.
You
from the
understand?
hotel.
Now, if you were able, I wish I knew the app, but I get the boy a plug right now.
No, if you
If
had
you had known
known,
that
we
app,
were gone.
you know, and there's an app that tell you where the Trini's at. So you can find a Trini in any party anywhere in the world, you know. Any fat that rocking, a Trini there. But anyway, I know you want to take a break.
Right,
So
we
when
have
you,
to take ourselves a nice, it's a short break. People, it is 11:30. Give that time check. Courtesy of Racetrack Wheels. One, it's only one. And I have to say who win the sing-along thing this morning, so.
you want to do calls?
Yeah, we can do calls.
How long? What kind of
We
second?
coming back in now? It's only 10 seconds again.
We can finish up the
We have
education.
a bigger break later on.
Like what time?
10:45.
Okay, but we do the calls after 10:45.
Alright, so you heard the guests, yeah. Now, people probably want to know who won the singing thing just now. Kingsley, I'll give it to you this morning, alright? So, Kingsley, you got in yourself the fill-up box of voucher. We need a number from, we need a number. Oh, then again, you're one of the people who always listening and you know, so I'm sure, but if we could get a number for you, that would be nice all the same. I'm just saying. But when you get the voucher, we have to announce that Kingsley, you have to come down to the studio to pick up your voucher. We don't have the vouchers yet. I don't believe so. When we have it, for sure, you know, you will be informed to come and get your voucher, to get your fill-up box. Alright, Kingsley? Alright. Next week, people, they're gonna be doing something a little bit different. It might be a little easier for you. I'll even tell you so you can start practicing and getting it into play one time. We want to talk about who fills up your life with fake news. The most outrageous, entertaining story wins. Who fills up your life with fake news? The most outrageous and entertaining story wins. Of course, nobody political. Try that. I mean, I know it's a temptation, but that's next week. So think it over, organize your story, and hey, most entertaining story gets it next week. Alright? Alright. So, Mr. Alexander.
Kevin, the point of the matter is crime doesn't happen in isolation. Crime is caused. Crime is a function.
It's called greed. People, human nature. Because
Yeah, but-
looking at a documentary about Finland, and they were talking about a jail in Finland. They realized the jail is like a hotel. It's so nice, but the thing is, they still have crime.
No, but you see, the kind of crime that they have and the crime they're dealing with is different than the kind of crime we have.
Talking
We are
about
the
murderers,
fifth.
They still have murderers. They
Kevin,
still have drug dealers.
yeah, but we are the fifth highest in the world, and
Yeah,
I am no longer comfortable having conversations that are open-ended, that end with no solution, that end with no cause and no effect, and how do we go forward? Because if we as a people continue to just make memes and make jokes, then we will be a laughing stock and the country will be a punchline. The truth of the matter is, every single problem that affects this tiny dot in the ocean, the 1.345 million of us who live here, all of these problems could be solved. But instead of having politicians talk programs, plans, ideas, solutions, they get on platforms and they talk nonsense. They make jokes. They sow bacchanal. They fill a room with paid attendees, and those people laugh on cue, and the media cover the laugh on cue, and that joke is the next story for tomorrow. And Trinidadians and Tobagonians didn't walk away from that experience any better.
Building party loyalty to ensure votes.
But they're not even getting that. Right now, Trinidadians are so incensed and upset because Trinidadians understand. They have the ability now, with the amount of information we've put in the public space, Trinidadians understand that if you've spent $60 billion on health care in the last 10 years, we should have first world health care. You're supposed to walk up to the emergency room and doors slide open automatically. And they should have a charming, well-paid, professional person behind the counter saying, "Good day, how can I be of assistance?"
That reminds me when I went to the hospital for my mom last year. Public hospital. I was like, wow, it was real nice. I asked her, there's a private hospital? She said, no, there's a public hospital. She just came to pick up some medication. And she's getting
First world nations, West Shore and Sinclair wouldn't pass for a public hospital. They will be downgraded. First world nations, hospitals, they have standards. There's somebody in public hospitals whose job it is, do you know this, to swab walls and floors regularly to check and record bacteria levels in the hospital.
I've never heard of that, but I'm sure that the people in the hospital environment know these things.
But Trinidad doesn't have anything like that. You go to the emergency room at 3 o'clock in the morning with somebody that heart attack or stroke or gunshot or whatever, and you had to fight up and shake a gate, and a security guard that come and say, "What happened to you? We need, you see the hour? What are you doing? Wait, nobody here. The doctor going to KFC." This is what we have as healthcare. And then the doctor reach and he's speaking Chinese or Nigerian, and we have or Spanish now, but we have hundreds of young doctors who have finished their education that can't get work in Trinidad. We have doctors who we've paid their not just their tuition, we've paid scholarships, and because we couldn't fulfill our end of the contract, we lost that money because they're no longer obligated to Trinidad and Tobago. It is insanity. You look at everything. You look at our airline. You look at the sea bridge. You look at the police service, the courts. Everything you're going to in Trinidad is a third and fourth world failure. We are a waste of time as a country. And instead of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and Keith Rowley addressing those issues and the track records of the parties of which they are part, they talk foolishness and nonsense. I will never forgive Keith Rowley for telling the nation that he stole $3.2 million to spend on Maxi Coffee because Maxi Coffee is not entitled to that, and Keith Rowley didn't have the authority to touch that money. I will never forget Keith Rowley said he stole that money because when he was now in politics, a fellow named Winston Ali killed his family and his wife and his children and himself. He said from the time Winston killed himself, I thought the right thing is to help everybody. But little Halima, parents on their knees begging for $400,000 because this child has some crazy disease and they're trying to get some help and they can't get help for Halima. How is Halima not the right thing? But Maxi Coffee, who on his last leg from his second stroke and has no contribution to make to society. There is no health advisory team anywhere in the world that would suggest or support spending money, keeping Maxi Coffee in a vegetative state. And all of the lies that Camille Robinson Regis, Stuart Young, Fitzgerald Hines, and Keith Rowley told the nation about Maxi being healthy have come home to roost. And now they're trying to cover it up, saying Maxi need another surgery. If you are healthy and in recovery, what the hell you need a surgery for? What you need another surgery for? They've lied to the people of this country. They've made fools of the people of this country. And if I have one role in the politics, if I have one responsibility to Trinidad and Tobago, it's to educate, inform, empower, and wake them up. I want Keith Rowley and Kamala Persad-Bissessar to go to public meetings and people stand up and say, hey, forget the foolishness, forget the nonsense. Explain to us why on your watch you still cannot do anything to clean up the gangs and the criminals inside the police service. Tell us that. Tell us how is it possible that in Trinidad and Tobago a court case can go on for 25 years. Tell us how it is not a human rights violation that you could put people in jail for 30 and 40 years waiting for a case. Yeah. How is that not a human rights violation of epic proportions?
Because you set yourself up for a sabbatical, really and truly, you know you wanted to go on an even longer vacation.
But you know what, the Chief Justice never did take any breaks or any vacations at all. He's entitled to that.
Yeah, but how many times did he leave the country?
Kevin, I want to tell you this, and I am the last person to defend the Chief Justice or anybody in our court system. But I want to tell you this. Being a magistrate or a judge have to be the nastiest job in this country. You spend your entire day dealing with society at its worst. From every fallout, every argument, every act of violence, every act of criminality, your entire day is negativity. So I understand them needing a break. I deal with this from a political point of view and I need a sabbatical now. I do this every day. And I'll tell Trinidad and Tobago, it's not easy. We live in a broken country. And Kamala Persad-Bissessar, she had me so upset. She went in St. Joseph to tell people the UNC could win a loan. UNC can't win a bingo in this country again. And the kind of people that she have with her, that she looking to put forward, if they win seats, they ain't coming beyond the Caroni. I'm telling you. Because they can't get past the racist tribal vote, and she know that. And instead of trying to engage in conversations that would lead the people, because we're going to need a transition.
We need to move away from the racist.
We have to move away from the racist voting. But you can't end up in a next situation where you're dealing with people where they're making hasty accommodations just to get into office. You need plans, programs, policies, ideas. The Progressive Empowerment Party stands on a contract with the people. The first page of that contract.
You know, if you were to win, you know you're going to be under the microscope, and people pretty much going to want solutions overnight.
But Kevin, this easy. Listen, man, under a Progressive Empowerment Party government, the media can't even ignore it. While they're down on the docks because 22 warships reach in the port from international, regional partners to come and help us secure our borders while we build the maritime security wall, while the media scrambling to cover that. FBI and New York City Internal Affairs land in Piaco, and they come to clean up the police service, and they have a mandate 6 months, get every criminal and every gang member. And while that going on, Parliament is convened, and we're not coming out of the Parliament until we pass recall legislation into law and amend it into the Constitution so that no other government could change that law. That if you hire a member of Parliament by your vote and he doesn't deliver, you could fire him. But you need to be able to run the country like that. You need to be able to announce immediately, every citizen of this country who does not own a home, all first-time home owners, you can come to your regional office and pre-qualify for financial support based on your earnings, your job, your income. Work with all your documentation, because we will be in a rush to get housing for all.
So you will have areas identified.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not
Listen,
compromise agricultural land.
but how you country, look at the size of New York City. But it is not as big as Trinidad. And New York City has 8.5 million people in it. We have one. Understand this. They have 65,000 police officers in New York City, 50,000 teachers. The mayor of New York City deals with a workforce, almost 25% of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. He deals with them directly, through management, through systems, and it works. New York City had 291 murders for 8.5 million people last year. We had 500 for one. We had 500 murders for 1 million people.
I'm shocked, and you know, that's an embarrassing thing for China. Not just beyond embarrassing, a shocking and a shameful thing.
You know what's even more shocking and shameful? Right now, the mayor of New York City and the commissioner of police under pressure to reduce those numbers.
And to make it less.
In this country, we have 3 ministers of national security, a stunting prime minister, and a commissioner of police, none of whom could explain. Check this statistical fact. The Attorney General said in the Parliament that there were $22.5 billion of suspicious transactions according to the Financial Intelligence Unit. The police service said he's wrong. It's only 3 million.
Hey, which one you prefer to work on?
No, but,
billion or 3 million?
No, but the fact that the AG and the police service could be so far off, or the fact that a FIU could exist and you could have $22.5 billion in suspicious transaction and nobody brought to justice, means it is time to put all the pieces back in the box. We have to start this game over. Trinidad and Tobago as a game has failed.
Corruption, money out, the country will change. It will be hard.
Kevin, all of those things, corruption, violence, crime, poverty, drug abuse, all of those things are symptoms of one problem. Trinidad and Tobago is run like a kindergarten. We do not have leadership. We've never had governance that worked.
I'm going to say all symptoms of the leaking pipe. There is being refused to fix it. Rather mop and mop and mop. It is 11:43. Give it this time check. Courtesy of Hearty Foods. We got to take ourselves a nice quick break. When we come back, take some clothes?
Yes, of course.
All right, let's go.
Why?
I was on the Monday night forum Monday.
You went?
Yeah, well, the station covering it now, so I have to go.
You have time to waste.
No man, Jalen, Rukman is the only reason I got to go. It's gonna so good. And she talked to me, so. Yeah. Let's see.
of March 2018. Register your Tug of War team today. For more information, stay tuned right here at M104.7. Remember, the colors are
Things going good here right now, right? You're cool, right?
yes,
You.
West Mokoya.
You're up and back to argue, so.
No, we're good.
Orchestra and powered by the Higher Level Song Company.
Trinity Lighting ETC Limited, the only place for light bulbs, parts and accessories. Located 123 Western Lee Road, St. James, Trinity has the widest range of light bulbs, replacement parts for chandeliers, ceiling fans and other light fixtures.
This is what I'm doing.
Special orders for hard-to-find light
In case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just checking these things. We have calls coming in just now. Kevin, do you have any way that we can bring in the calls so that the viewers on Facebook can hear it? I know there's some manipulation to bring it through the speakers
What's
there.
They should be able to, once you're on the radio,
No, what I mean is, you know, like how sometimes you turn off my mic and turn on the speaker while the caller on?
Yeah.
You could do that, or is that a lot of difficulty?
But you see, you don't know when somebody's going to talk. So, you're not, so you,
I will just wait them out.
People are looking at, people are listening to you through the iPad screen camera right now. You have to turn off, I'll have to turn off the mics. So
You're gonna see what he could do, but if you really want to hear the callers, 104.7, get a radio. Is this online?
Yeah, we have the app. We have our app.
What's the app?
More FM. 104.7. It's a pink and blue app.
More FM 104.7, that's an app. Download that app. They will hear the callers on that app.
More FM, they'll find, yeah, they'll hear everything.
You'll hear everything on that app, so your call.
We stream, I believe, on SoundCloud as well. SoundCloud, I can't remember. But that might be a little difficult. What about this sport? You organize a team?
Coming alone. I coming alone. It's David versus Goliath. I coming to take on the whole of 104.7.
By yourself?
By myself. I'm doing tug of war by myself. How much all it is?
I think it's 8 people.
It's like Chuck Norris. I'm moving like Chuck Norris. You see that thing? They had a plane that mash up. They say TWA tried to throw Chuck Norris off. Tried. I'm moving like Chuck Norris. Coming by myself. Woo, big tune. Did you read this? About the toilet seats and the toilet paper that they had to put on a memo?
Yeah, I didn't really have, I saw the story somewhere. That's terrible. People have used it, take it home to the paper.
I want to read this. Before you open for calls, I want to read it. Actually late. You want to take calls. Kevin, who's this here? This is Nicki Minaj?
Yeah. You know, that's how they make invitations. There's 2 people, celebrities,
Nicki coming to this dance?
But no, who has no idea that the image is being used.
Hitman and Howie T, I said they're bringing Nicki Minaj to the dance. Trinidadians, people on Facebook, 628-2555 and 628-3131.
9595.
628-9595, what did I say?
25.
Sorry, 628-9595, 628-3131. Somebody type it in for them, please. 628-9595, 628-3131. You all make the calls. I don't want to hear you all saying, oh, you couldn't get through, eh? What more you have?
One more. Yes, General Castle, the same or
Chicken Wars. Chicken Wars.
Alright, so let's get back inside of Sense and Sensibility. It is now 11:50. Alright, I'm going to tell you some important things and tell you next. And take care, don't forget people, Clash of Generations, How We Tea in concert. It is happening indeed, and you know the day when it's all going to be happening, the 1st of April, all happening on the Harbour Master. Of course, we could deal Wednesdays at Hearty Foods in Queen Street Agreement. On a Wednesday, they have a whole lot of deals. You've got to check that out. Of course, don't forget, Kabuki's Black as well is coming up. Yeah, it is coming up indeed very shortly. So make your plans. That's March 31st. Of course, that's before our tea, right? And our sports days. Before all these things on the 30th. I'm forgetting where it is already. Constantine Park West in Ogoy. That's what we have in the sports there. Philip J. coming by.
I'm coming by myself, Chuck Norris. Kevin, do me a favor. Google how dispatched is spelled.
D-I-S-P-A-T-C.
You sure?
Dispatch.
Dispatch. D-I-S. You sure? Because I know it to be D-I-S.
Yeah.
But I have a document here from the Ministry of Health with an official stamp that says dispatch, D-E-S-P-A-C-T-H-E-D.
I'm wondering if
Despacito. They dispatch this slowly. Anyway, this memorandum, I just want to read in the public space. Oh, look, you have calls. You better take your calls. Yeah?
Good morning. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, sir. My entire show, the entire show was solutions. All right, well, caller, I understand your point. I understand the point. And let me explain to you. My entire contribution today was explaining how a proper functional education system would work, or how a proper functional healthcare system would work, or how we would clean up the police service, or stop drugs from coming into the country and guns. If you didn't hear that, I want to recommend to you that you take your radio back where you bought it from. Tell him you're only hearing half the conversation.
All right, I'll give it that. No, caller, he did go through a lot of explanation of what he would do.
Tell him he could go back on Facebook. Tell him he could use Facebook because when the no, but when the show done, he could use Facebook and go back and use my live video, and he will hear all of the things that we spoke about. 20% of it was who did wrong, and 80% of it is what solutions are.
Well, he did give a lot.
He talked about Section 34. Section 34 was a very important law, but the fact that they left out Schedule 6 or Schedule 12, I can't remember which it is now, that would have prevented white-collar criminals from benefiting from it, is what the problem was. So all them same little people that you say that she tried to get out of jail, this end up suffering still because they didn't get out of jail, because the entire law was used as a fulcrum to move to get corrupt politicians and financiers out of hot water.
People are going to come with the older issues.
They can come with what they want.
Good morning. Yes.
Good morning. Exactly.
Yeah, I want to debate about that. There was something called, I was looking at the internet the other day, there was something that was called Export Development Corporation. That was back in the 80s. I think it was under Dr. Williams. And looking back from then, and even after Pandey's time, when Pandey had run this country with $9 a barrel, it really, really amazes me to see where Trinidad is in 2018. And yet he's still defending politicians up to this time and now. Now, here it is, you only have oil and natural gas. What it is now that we can actually look at, that Trinidad and Tobago can now say we market, apart from oil and natural gas? Healthcare, we had a cake industry here. We used to have assembly cars here. There are many things that we used to do in the Caribbean that would have benefited in the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Tobago that would have benefited the average person on the ground. And all these institutions have closed down over a period of time because politicians and businessmen want to have their own way.
Thanks a lot for that caller. That is a real. But people, but you need that. You need to support enterprise. We have too many counter servers. Too many.
I said, Trinidad and Tobago first, like America first, Trinidad and Tobago first. People hate you, but you gotta do something to protect your own.
But absolutely, if you don't, what will you do? You will be a consumer till your money in your wallet run out.
We selling out our economy. We have literally selling it off to foreigners as investors, and we should be doing for it. They hate Donald Trump for what he's saying and all that, but he's protecting his economy. Trinidad and Tobago first.
The memorandum of the Northwest Regional Health Authority that was dispatched despacito by Peter Briggs, the general manager, on March 12, 2018. It says, please be advised that 3 new complete toilet sets were installed in washrooms at head office on March 8, 2018. 2 of which were fitted in the female washrooms on the first floor and 1 in the male washroom on the second floor. As such, staff utilizing these washrooms are being asked to do so with care, as these units have been provided for your use and convenience. Additionally, and this is important, there has been a high usage of toilet paper by employees, mainly on the ground floor. I don't know why he would have to say mainly on the ground floor. Maybe ground floor people eating too much fiber. And first floor within recent months, which has been a major cause for concern. I wanted to call in the medical staff, because this is the Regional Health Authority. They should be calling in medical people to say why people using the toilet paper so much. As the authority has incurred steep costs to replenish same during short time frames. In light of this, staff are being asked to be mindful of the quantity of toilet paper consumed when visiting washrooms, as the authority is unable to procure toilet paper on a monthly basis as opposed to every quarter as was customary due to financial constraints. Now, I am saying to you, Kevin, if the toilet paper bill is so high that you have to put out a memo, then you should have somebody on staff every day. You could rotate through different members, not to check the toilet paper. Their job is toilet paper warden. And you give them the roll of toilet paper. So if somebody needs to go to the toilet, they come to the toilet paper warden and they say, I'd like to request some toilet paper. And you would ask, well, what are you going to do? Number 1 or number 2, because you need to quantify how many blocks to give them. And no, because a toilet paper warden, and I'm suggesting this to Mr. Briggs. Mr. Briggs, this will save you a lot of money. You don't have to hire no member staff. Just a different toilet paper warden every day. Some people will love the job because it gives them power and authority.
They come in the role. Next thing you have to make sure some staff not taking it and selling it outside.
Listen, the toilet paper warden is given the role in the morning, and in the evening he hands it back to management with an accounting of who used what.
You gotta give your name too.
Because if Charles Smith using an inordinate amount of toilet paper every day, we're going to have a conversation with Charles.
Let's take one more. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Hi, Joanne. I would say noon.
We have news at noon. We also have news at 8 a.m. in the morning. That's news time. There is regional news at say about 5 or 6 minutes after 10 a.m.
Loosely arranged.
Yeah, loosely arranged. And there's news. The major news at 12. There's news at what can I read as well? Yeah. That's regional news, Caribbean news. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for calling, Miss Lynch. Have a lovely day. That was an interesting call. I think I'm going to call coming on the next line.
Last one. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. You have to keep it short because we have a minute left. Yes, we do, and I'll tell you how it's done off air. Listen to this off air. That your say is your vote. Your say is that when you go to a political meeting, you could raise your hand And despite all the goats on the stage and all the flags and whistleblowing and confetti, raise your hand and say, excuse me, I'd like to ask a question about the $1 trillion that was spent under the last 4 administrations. Could you explain to us what we have to show for it? Trinidad and Tobago, your responsibility as citizens are important. Every Saturday at noon, the Progressive Empowerment Party invites the entire public to 19 Stanmore Avenue for a public meeting. Kevin, thanks a lot for having me. Thank you to the 104.7 listeners. It's always a pleasure. Stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.